All right, so we're going to take a look at section 3.1. Okay, chapter 3 pretty much covers all the basics you need to know about how to solve an equation. Okay, in other words, how do you get a variable by itself? Okay, and that's something that we do all year.
And guys, some of this stuff on the first few pages is just review kind of stuff. You're not responsible for writing it down. Just listen right now. That's all we're doing. Right, the stuff that you're going to have to write down is going to look exactly like what's on your page, but obviously it's going to be filled in the blanks.
All right, so one property that you can use when you're solving a question here.
I didn't get a paper.
Mr. Wright, we need one more paper. One property you can use when you're solving an equation is this property. All right? It's called the addition property of equality. Does anybody know what this property is? Addition property of equality. You've probably used it before. Well, when you add something to an equation, where do you have to do it? Let's say you're going to add a number to an equation. You've got to be careful about where you do it because you've got to keep it balanced.
On each side of the equals?
Yeah, on each side of the equal sign. So all that this property says is you are allowed to add the same number to both sides of an equation.
And guys, some of the stuff we've been doing, right, before, like chapter 1, chapter 2, didn't have an equal sign. Now we're going to get an equal sign. So you're going to think of that equal sign, both sides have to be balanced. You have to balance it. One side can't be more than the other.
Right. So that's what that property says. You can add the same number to both sides of an equation. Okay, here's an example. I wrote this down. It's an equation, x equals 6. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to do a plus 3, and I'm going to do a plus 3 on each side. If I do a plus 3 on the left, I have x plus 3. Can't combine a letter with a number. If I do a plus 3 on the right, 6 plus 3 gives me 9. What's the answer to this bottom equation? What plus 3 would give me 9? 6. It's exactly the same as the top equation, right? They're the same thing. Okay? As long as you add the same number to both sides of the equation, these are the same thing. Okay? They have exactly the same answer. Okay? Equations that have the same answer are called equivalent equations. Right? Here's another example. Y plus 8. This time I decided to add 5 and add 5. If I add 5 on the left, I get y plus 5. If I add 5 on the right, 8 plus 5 is 13. What's the answer to this bottom equation?
8.
8. What's the answer to the top equation?
5.
This is the one I'm pointing at. 8. These equations have exactly the same answer because they're equivalent. You did the same thing on both sides. And as long as you do the same thing on both sides, you'll always get the right answer. Okay? All right, so when we ask you to solve an equation,
You guys, you'll see that on the top of your sheet.
solve means what's highlighted in yellow. Find the solution. Okay? Generally, it's going to look something like a letter equals a number. X equals 3. Y equals 2/3. Okay?
So guys, if you want to squeeze in letter equals number, you can. You don't have to. I think most of you guys probably know that. If you want to squeeze it in on the top, that's fine.
Okay, so when you're solving an equation, you want to get the variable alone
Guys, don't worry about
inside.
writing anything down here. Just listen. Mistake is just kind of going through right now. Just to kind of get you guys thinking about it, and then we'll walk right through.
Okay, how many people already have done this kind of stuff before? Get the variable alone on one side. Yeah. Does it matter if you get it on the left or on the right? Really?
No.
No. Generally, usually people like to do it on the left, but if you do it on the right, that's okay too. You just got to get the letter by itself. Okay. One nice thing about solving an equation is you can always check the answer you got and see if it's right. All right? It's always better for you to check it before Mr. Roy and I check it. Right? So to check it, does anybody know how you check once you get an answer to an equation? So you get a number. What do you do with that number? Yeah.
You substitute it into the variable.
Yeah. You take it and substitute it back in and see if it works. Okay. We're gonna practice checking a couple to start. We're not gonna check every single problem all year. takes too
This is
long.
it's kind of like an as-needed kind of thing. Like these like today, especially where we have no number attached to the variable, they're pretty simple. So you can check them for these. But as the year gets going, guys, we're not going to make you check every single one.
All right, so exactly as Sam said, take what you got for your answer, plug it back into the original problem, and see if it works. Okay, see if you get a true statement. How many people have had to do that in the past? They have to solve it and then check their answer. Yeah, a lot of people have done that.
I'm going to do this with Steve.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so guys, you have something that looks like this on your notes. So your first step's going to be find the variable. So that means the letter on one side of the equal sign. So you're gonna find where that. It seems like kind of like common sense, but sometimes as we get going, sometimes you might have more than one variable. We're gonna get to that stuff a little bit later in the week. But the first thing you want to do is find that variable. All right, find that letter. So I'll give you guys a few seconds to get that written down. And then right next to it is a little space for the example, right? I want you to write that example down. So as we're going through, step by step, we'll see what the step says, and then we'll do it over here. So you have a spot for your example, just write your example in. So your example is x minus 12 equals 9.
Are we doing it?
We're going to run through it right now, all right? So we're going to do exactly what each bullet says for us to do. So Davin, this first step, right? Find the variable on one side of the equal sign. What's the variable?
12.
What's a variable?
The
Letter, right? What's my letter?
X.
It's x, right? Is it positive or negative?
It's positive.
How do you know?
Because there's no negative.
There's no sign to the left, right? So we just assume that it's positive. Good. So it's going to be x. So this on your thing, circle your x. We did that. You don't have to do this, guys, but we're just walking through it so you guys can see. All right? So first thing we're going to do, identify my x. Identify my, it might be a y, it could be a z, could be whatever. Next step. Move number on same side of the equal sign to the other side using the opposite operation. So we're going to move the number that's with the variable to the other side by doing the opposite operation. Right? And when we talk about that equal sign, we've got to balance, right? We got to balance it. Think of it as this number, this negative 12, doesn't like the x, doesn't want to hang out with it, wants to be on the other side. And sometimes I tell kids, think of this like equal sign as like a fence. It wants to jump the fence and go somewhere else. All right? So Sam, what do you want to do?
Add 12 to both.
Add 12, right? How do you know you're going to add 12, Sam?
Because it's going to leave the x alone.
Yeah, it's a negative 12, right? What do we say? We say look in what direction for the sign that it belongs to. To what direction?
What?
What direction do we want? If I'm looking at this 12, how do I know it's negative?
Oh, because it's on the left.
On the left, right? Sign to the left. It might seem simple now, guys, when we do these short ones, when we get into the more, the longer stuff. You really need to know that. So like Sam said, add the 12 here. Where else am I adding 12, Sam? On the other side, right? Add 12 on both sides. Gabe, what's going to happen here? On this side, over here, with the 12s. I got a negative 12 and a positive 12. What's going to happen? What's my answer going to be when I do that?
0.
It's gone, right? That's why we did it, because we want to get the variable by itself, right? So, x, this eliminates. Gauge, on my other side, what do I get? 9 and 12? 21. That's better. 21.
First period.
All right, so I just did it. I added or subtract. That's what I did, and then check. So like Sam just said earlier, we're gonna evaluate. Caitlin, what's evaluate mean?
To find out.
We already did that.
Oh. To plug it in.
Plug it in, right? So what am I plugging in for? What's taking the place of what?
21 is taking the place of
21 is taking the place of x. So let's write out my new equation with the substitution or evaluating it. So what's it going to look like? What am I going to write first?
21.
21 is taking the place of x minus what?
12.
12 equals 9. 21 minus 12, 9 equals 9. It checks. And like Mr. Hager said earlier, you don't, we're not expecting you guys to check. We'll check a few today. Might have you guys check a few on your homework, but that's it. So you're going to check. It'll evaluate with the number that you solve for. So to do these ones, when we're doing addition or subtraction, one step, those are the 4 steps you want to follow. Boom, boom, boom. If you have another way you think of it, that's fine too. All right? If you have another way you think of it, that's fine too. Nothing else on this page, right, Mr. Hager?
I don't think so.
We're good? All right, so one thing about, I think that this one's on your sheet. I want you guys to write this as example 2 on your sheet. All right, so this one. So you have a little spot for example 2 on your sheet. Zach, what's the deal with this one? How's it, from the one we just did, example 1, that's on your sheet, to this one, how's it different? Huh? Okay, the variable's at the middle, that's one way we can look at it. Gage?
It's just backwards.
It's backwards, right? If you can solve it like this, that's perfectly fine. But what I like to do is rewrite it. So Gage, if I was going to rewrite this to make it look like the first one we did, the first example, how would I do that?
You do 4 minus y.
Oh, we can keep this in. We can keep that in the same order.
Oh, yeah, just switch it around.
So I can do y minus 4 equals what?
3.
3. All I'm doing is just putting this here, taking this, putting it there. I'm just reversing the order so that, because most times when you do math, guys, the equal sign comes at the end. So you may get some today where you just have to reverse it. You don't have to rearrange. You don't have to rearrange the order of the number or the variable or anything. Just take this piece, move it to the front, take the number at the end with the equal sign, and switch it around. That's all we're doing. All right? So, first thing we said, what's the first, Ben, what's the first step? What do we put on our sheet? What's the first step on our sheet?
You would add.
Oh, before we even do that, we're taking baby steps here, my man. The first bullet that's on your notes. What do we say to do?
Find the variable.
Okay, so tell me that.
On the other side equals.
Okay.
Wouldn't you add 4?
What's my variable first before I even do that? Just tell me what the variable is. There you go. So y. Next step says what then?
Move the number on the same side of the equals.
Okay. So what's the number on the same side of the equal with that letter?
-4.
Okay. So and it said to do what? Opposite operation, right?
Yeah, so
What's-
you add 4.
Add 4. Good.
Both sides.
Add 4 to both sides. Good, Ben. Last step, Ben.
You would add 4 to 3, which is 7.
Y equals 7.
Yep.
All right. If I wanted to, Ryan, what could I do?
You could check it.
Check it. How do I do it? Tell me what the equation is going to look like.
It's so y minus 4.
Yeah.
And then 7 minus 4.
All right, 7 minus 4. Because we're evaluating or substituting. What's 7 minus 4, right?
3.
3. Am I all good? Yeah, of course, it checks out. Like I said, guys, tonight on the homework, you can do a couple. You can check a couple. We're not expecting you guys to check every single one. You know, pick a few in your homework, check them, so you don't have to do all of them. All right? Now this one, Mr. Hager, I'll bring you around the bullpen. Bring the right hander.
All right, so this time, very similar to the last one. How many people like that idea of just switching it around first? You get the variable on the left.
I really don't see it.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter? Okay, then
Leave it if you want.
yeah, well, this time I guess we'll leave it, and we'll do it this way. All right, so for step 1, who can tell me, what's my variable? What's my variable here? Yeah, Alexis. X. Okay, so that's what we're going to get by itself. Okay, right now, this negative 2/3 is preventing it from being by itself. So how am I going to deal with that negative 2/3, Maria?
We're gonna add 2/3.
I'm going to add 2/3. And I'm going to add 2/3. What happens when you do the negative 2/3 plus 2/3, Maria? What happens?
Oh, you cross it.
Yep, those cancel out. And now you have x by itself. This time on the right, that's okay. Now on the left, okay, we've got to add 3 plus 2/3. Right? Generally, in algebra, we write things as an improper fraction. So rather than writing it as 3 2/3, how do you combine these fractions? What do I do? Yeah, Sam?
Put 3 over 1.
Sure, you put 3 over 1. And to add fractions, what do you need? This is, I don't think we've talked about it, but yeah, you need a common denominator. Okay. So in this case, can somebody else tell me what my common denominator is? Sure, 3. Okay. This fraction already has a common denominator of 3. So what do you have to multiply 1 by? How about Michaela, to change it to 3? What do you multiply 1 by to make it 3?
Okay, one times one. There you go.
So if you multiply by 3 on the bottom, where else do you need to multiply by 3? On, someone said it? On the top. Good. So what does the top become? What's 3 times 3? 9. Okay. So we get 9/3 plus 2/3,
11.
11/3. Anytime you find a common denominator, you always keep the denominator the same. Just add the numbers in the top. Okay, 11/3.
That's fine, guys. You don't have to change it to a decimal. You don't have to make it a mixed number. You can leave it just like that. You don't have to change anything.
All right, so any questions on that one? So that kind of reviewed a little bit about fractions. So that's a good one. All right. Right, sometimes we're going to have equations where adding the same number to both sides, it just won't work. Right? For example, if you had something like this, y plus 2 equals 8. You can't add something to both sides there and get y by itself. Right? So in this case, we've got another property that says you are allowed to subtract the same number from both sides. Okay? It's the same idea. In fact, it's the same thing I had before, except I changed add to subtract. Okay? So you're allowed to subtract the same thing from both sides. Okay? Just remember, you got to do it on both sides. Not one side, both sides. Okay? And then that's fine. All right, so let's look at this one.
You guys have this, write that one on. You have a spot for it on your sheet. Just write it on.
Okay, Victor, what's step 1? Yep, find your variable, just to know what you're going to get by itself. What are you getting by itself here? X. Good. So now we know what the goal is. We're getting that by itself. All right, how about, Callan, can you tell me what I would do to get X by itself? Yeah. How'd you know to subtract? Right, because we're adding. We always do the opposite operation. Subtract 6. Subtract 6. Got to do it on both sides. Okay, and how about Ariana? What's going to happen with positive 6 minus 6? Yeah, you cross out. It becomes 0. What do you have left by itself now on the left side? Just x. Okay, and my last step, Sabrina, what's 10 minus 6? 4. All right. Have we done everything the problem asked us to do?
Yes. Except for check.
Except for check, right? The problem did ask us to check it. So off to the side. I'll check it. All right. How about Zach? How am I going to check it? What do I do? Yeah, Zach. You're going to do what with the 4? Before we even do any arithmetic, all you got to do is take the 4 and put it where? Put it. This is like just substituting. Anyone help him out? What do you do with the 4? You don't do any arithmetic yet. You're just going to replace something. Yeah, Ariana? Yeah. You take and you just fill in what you think your answer is for x. So it's x becomes 4. Okay? And we're hoping that we get the same number on both sides. If we do, we're good. Is 4 plus 6 10? Yeah. So it checks. What if we got 9 equals 10? What would that mean?
It wouldn't, you have to work out a little, check it out.
Yeah, something's wrong. Exactly. Something went wrong. Like if you got x equals 3, and you plug that in, 3 plus 6 would be 9 equals 10. Something's wrong. You got to go back and check it. All right, so I think this is, yeah, we'll try a word problem. Okay? So just remember when you're solving a word problem, if you see the word more than, okay, you guys got this on your sheet from chapter 1, but if you see more than, that means you're doing addition. Okay? This one's tricky. 16 less than a number. Okay? Remember what you have to do with less than. Switch the order. Right? Just like if Mr. Roy and I said, what's 2 less than 10? Well, the way you do 2 less than 10 is like that. 10 minus 2 is 8. Okay? So you got to be careful.
Second thing, when it's less than, the second thing goes first.
Okay? A number decreased by 16. That you pretty much do in the order you see it. Number decreased by 16. Okay? But this is the one that's a little tricky.
Guys, we want to do one with you because there is going to be one on the homework worksheet tonight. Just one word problem.
Okay. You guys good with that? We're good? All right. All right. So it says a number has been decreased by 12. The result is negative 5.
You subtract.
All right. What tells you you're going to subtract?
Decrease.
Decreased. Right? That's an important word. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to underline it. Decreased.
I see another key word in there too. Maybe we haven't talked about it yet, but you might know from other math classes. What do you think, Victor?
Is it a number?
That's important.
That's good.
We are going to
That's
need
good.
that number.
One more thing. Alexis. Okay, keep going.
12. Did you say 12?
No, the result
Oh, result.
is so close. You're one word away. The result. There you go. Guys, that one is huge. Anybody know what that translates to in math? What, Sam?
Equals.
Equals. Is always equals, right?
Okay. Anything else there that's important? We're going to need this to make our equation. So far, all 3 things we've underlined we need, but there's a couple more. Yeah?
12 and negative 5.
Yeah, you need all the numbers there. Okay, so those 5 things we just put in, you're going to see those 5 things when we make an equation. All right?
Let's go back. That's what because Victor said a number. So Victor, how do you want to represent that? Don't tell him, Sam.
No, would a number be like, you could put, what would you want to know what it is, so would it be like X or something?
Yeah,
X, right?
yeah, it's perfect. You pick a letter. All right, you want to use which letter? You want to use X? That's fine. So that's going to be represented by X. How about decreased? I think someone already said that. Was it Gage or Gabe?
It was me.
Yeah. What did you say?
Subtraction.
That's subtraction. Okay, 12. It's just 12. There's not much there. And then is. Somebody over here said what is means. Was that Alexis? What did you say is means?
She didn't say that. Sam said
Oh,
it.
Sam said it? Yeah, is means equals, and then negative 5 stays the same. So who thinks they can take all this and make it into an equation for me? Yeah, Logan?
X minus 12 equals negative 5.
Perfect. A number decreased by 12 is negative 5. That's it. Now we've got our equation. This is the hard part. Now we got to just get x by itself using what we learned today. Okay, this one doesn't say to check. You just have to find the number. So how do we get x by itself? about Brian? Can you tell me what do we got to do to move this negative 12 to the other side? Think of what Mr. Roy said. What is this 12? Positive or negative? It's negative. What's the opposite of negative? We're positive, right? So what do we call that when we do a plus here? That's what operation? Adding. Good. And add 12. Where else do you have to add 12? Yep. Careful. What number is it? It's negative 5. Good. Okay. So now on the left-hand side, about Michaela, what happens to negative 12 plus 12? Yep. Cancels out. All right. So Davin, on the left-hand side, what do we got now?
0.
Yep, for negative 12 plus 12, we got 0. What else, though?
Good.
And then
We still have the x. Good.
Now, for that last part, guys, Ryan, is your answer going to be this, Ryan? Is your answer going to be positive or negative?
Positive,
Positive, why?
because it, if you take away 5 from positive 12, it's still positive.
Okay. Anyone remember the rule we talked about yesterday, Victor?
You take the sign of the big.
Take the sign of the large number. You're not, Ryan, you're not wrong. If you think of it that way, that's okay.
Yeah, your thinking was perfect.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yep.
But what we talked about yesterday, a lot of people, it works for some people, take the sign of a larger number, right? Ryan says it's positive, Victor says it's positive, I agree with you guys. Positive what, Ryan?
6?
Close. Oh, 11 minus 5, 11 minus 5 would be 6.
7?
Good, perfect, good job.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay, we don't have to go back and check that. It just said to find the number. All right? So these are all very, very basic equations, only one step. Probably seems very simple now, but this is going to be a very important step in all equations you solve all year. Okay? Does anyone have any questions on what we did today? All right. So for tonight, we're going to have you guys practice. Most nights, we're going to give you a worksheet. Make sure if you have any paperwork,
Leave that sheet out for right now, okay? Don't put it away yet.
make sure if you have any paperwork, you still get that signed, and try to make sure you get a 3-ring binder for Friday.